This is Steve Zeltzer with WorkWeek, and this evening we're talking with Björn Borg. He has been a leader of the Swedish dock workers, a federal chairman of the Swedish Workers Union, and he's going to be talking to us today about a very important critical struggle of Swedish workers around their fight of the Tesla mechanics at service centers in Sweden to get a union. So welcome to our show, Björn.
Thank you very much, Steve.
So, Björn, why don't you talk about this struggle that's now going on in Sweden, the significance of it, and why the Swedish dock workers have taken action in solidarity with the striking Tesla mechanics?
Well, first of all, it's quite natural for us to side up with workers being on strike, like the Tesla workers in Sweden. And this is as you said, this is a very significant fight, industrial fight in Sweden, since Tesla is denying to sign a contract with the Swedish Metal Workers Union, and that's a breakage of the whole system in Sweden. There, almost all bigger companies do sign contracts with their counterparts amongst the trade unions. So that's why this has been going on for quite a while now. Tesla still refuses to sign a contract. I heard a radio interview yesterday with, I think it was the chairman of the Metal Workers Union, and he said that they are talking but making no progress.
And there's a long history of struggle of apparently against American companies. The last one were Toys R Us, which also refused to sign a contract, collective bargaining agreement. Why don't you talk about what happened in that struggle of Toys R Us, and also the role of your union in blocking delivery of the toys through shipping?
Well, that's right. That's pretty much the same type of fight that was going on then, back in, I think that was in the 90s, as far as I remember. And finally, Toys R Us signed a contract, but I don't think they signed it directly, but through a different company. They made some kind of a deal there with the trade union that was relevant. But there was also a long fight going on, and the Swedish Dock Workers Union were trying to do what we could, and so did the Swedish Transport Workers Union, blockading all transports to Toys R Us, which they are doing today towards Tesla.
And the right of the Swedish dock workers under Swedish labor law to withhold labor, to have what is called a secondary boycott, how long have you had that right? And as you probably know, in America, we have this Taft-Hartley law, which was passed to prevent workers having the right to support other striking workers.
In Sweden, as far as I can remember, there is no time limit for a secondary boycott. The employees' organization is making quite a lot of noise right now because they want to have a time limit, as you say you have in America. But we can go on for very long. They sued us to court, but they didn't have any success. Or rather, they didn't sue just the Swedish Dock Workers Union. They sued Metal Workers Union in the first hand, and the secondary boycotting unions in the second hand.
And I also
labor court, Swedish labor court.
And I also understand that Amazon, which operates in Sweden, also decided they didn't want to sign a union contract, so they subcontracted to another company, and that other company has signed a contract with the union.
Yes, that's right. And that's the same way that Toys R Us solved their problem back in the 90s.
And the Swedish dock workers have also taken solidarity action internationally. Maybe you can talk about some of that history. I mean, I first learned of the Swedish dock workers and your struggle around Liverpool. Why don't you talk about that struggle and the lessons of that for today?
The lesson of the Liverpool struggle was that we needed a firmer and stronger international organization amongst dock workers. And that was a result some years after the Liverpool fight was being closed down. And that was the International Dock Workers Council, being founded in the year of 2000 on the Canary Islands. It's an international organization made up of dock workers' unions just for the sake of dock workers.
And internationalism, I think, is growing in the United States. Of course, U.S. multinationals are operating around the world, including Tesla, which is operating in Sweden. Do you think the international action by workers and unions is an important way of unions fighting for solidarity and also fighting to defend their democratic rights?
Oh yes, it is, definitely. It's in like the situation is today. It's so important. It can't be overrated. It's really crucial today.
And today there's also a massacre that's going on in Gaza, genocide, and there's efforts of the Palestinian Union Federation have called for solidarity action. What do you think unions around the world in Sweden should do in support of stopping this bombing of Gaza and the genocide that's going on there?
I'm not quite sure. There has been a discussion yesterday in my union about this, but I'm not sure what standpoint they have taken. They have to be a bit cautious about making a full blockade. We did that back in 2009, 2010, when the ship took, what was it called? The Freedom Fleet was being attacked. It being attacked by Israel, and we made a total boycott of Israeli goods and ships, and were of course taken to court. And we have to shorten that action to maybe 3 or 4 days. And they threatened us with a massive economic, what do you call it? We should have had to pay so much money that we had just been going broke. And that's why I think what they are afraid of today as well.
What do you think about the United States, the role of the United States in arming Israel, sending them bombs while they're bombing Gaza and committing this massacre of the Palestinian people?
It's so terrible. You can't really believe your eyes when you see what's going on there. I think the U.S. government actually could stop this if they really wanted to. That's my personal opinion. I mean, I don't think Israel could go on doing this without, so to say, the permission from the U.S. government. I mean, they tell the Israeli government not to bomb civilians, but I mean, we know what's going on there, and they do bomb everyone. And
it seems that as the war continues, that workers really are the only way that this war can be stopped. You believe that workers should take international action to stop this war? And I know tomorrow or Saturday rather, there's going to be a blockade of the port of Oakland that's going to be taking place, and also the Zim's shipping line have been blocked from delivering goods on the West Coast. You think that kind of action? I know the Houthis have been bombing ships to stop them unloading and loading in Israel. You think that kind of action can actually affect Israel's war?
I think it can affect Israel's war. It won't by itself stop Israel's war, but it can definitely affect it. But then there is a need for more similar actions around the world. I think it's great that they're doing this action in Oakland. I guess it's number 10 then doing this.
It's going to be a community blockade.
Community blockade, yeah. Okay. That's the way you have to handle it in California.
And there have been blockades. In fact, it was a community blockade of the Liverpool ship, the Neptune Jade.
The Neptune Jade, yes, indeed. That was a great action.
Yes, it was. And the attack on labor globally, there's an effort to deregulate the ports, attack labor rights in Germany. Elon Musk has built an assembly plant of Tesla, and he's fighting the union. Do you think that this fight with Elon Musk is of international importance?
Yeah, I think so. Yes, definitely. Definitely. And it's spreading all over. We got this in Sweden as well. Tries to deregulate the ports, and we do see it in some ports. My port, where I've been working almost all my life, the port of Stockholm, is being deregulated now, and we've tried to stop it, but it's really hard. It's really hard.
And the governments, I know in the United States, both the Democrats and Republicans take money from the billionaires. Privatization of public services is taking place to nonprofits and basically to get rid of public controlled ports. And they tried to privatize the Port of Oakland, actually, with John Fisher, the owner of the Gap Corporation. Do you think there needs to be an international campaign against privatization of ports and also privatization of public services?
Yes, I think. I think there's a need for that. It's so evident here in Sweden where the privatization has gone quite far, actually. I mean, the welfare system is being privatized. Schools are being privatized. It's a horrible situation in Sweden right now. I mean, we used to be in the forefront, but now we're really bad days.
And at the same time, there's a growth of right-wing fascism. You might have Trump as the next president. You have Milei in Argentina. It seems like the growth of fascism internationally is also a threat to working people and labor.
That definitely, yes, it is. It is. Italy is the same, you know, with Meloni being the prime minister, with a quasi-fascist party behind her. And we got a party in Sweden that is very powerful right now, which has the same background. So it's a bit scary, really.
Are the unions discussing and debating this? And what kind of education campaign is going on in the unions to fight the rise of fascism?
Some unions are doing this, trying to educate the members and having discussions about it. But one has to keep in mind that even some of our members sympathize with the so-called Swedish Democrats, not the Social Democrats, but the Swedish Democrats, which is a quasi-fascist party, really.
Well, an issue that has been used by fascist and right-wing are immigrants, but aren't those immigrants escaping really wars? The United States bombed Iraq, they bombed Libya, Syria. A lot of these immigrants are coming from wars that the United States has been involved in and other countries in Europe.
There's a right-wing government in Sweden right now, and they are really trying to use this, what they call a flood of immigrants from those countries like Libya and Syria and other countries in the Middle East. They want to close the border. That's what they really want. They want to get rid of everyone who's coming here, who's come during the last 20 years.
And have there been a rise in attack on immigrants in Sweden?
No, not right now. Not physically attacks on immigrants. No, it's political attacks on the immigrants. But about 20 years ago, there was a lot of physical attacks on immigrants. But I don't think there are so many right now.
And what kind of fight back is there in Sweden to this right-wing government and the threat it is? And also, what is the program of the right-wing government in relationship to labor?
In relationship to labor, I think that it's really hard to understand how they reason, because it's a mixture of different standpoints, and you know it's not easy. It's four parties in the government, or actually it's three parties in the government, but they do have to rely on the Swedish Democrats all the time. But they don't have the same policy towards labor in those four parties, so it's a bit hard to tell. They are not pro-labor, that's for sure.
Are they supporting this lawsuit by Elon Musk against the unions for, like the postal workers, for refusing to deliver licenses and other action by Swedish workers to support the Tesla workers?
No, not officially. Not officially. They wouldn't do that. They are waiting for some harder reason to make laws against secondary boycotts and legal strikes. But as I said, the employers' organization is calling for tougher rules when it comes to labor action.
I see. And some American workers are going to be rallying this coming Saturday as well at the Fremont Tesla plant against union busting in support of the Swedish Tesla mechanics. Do you think there needs to be more international action to support the strike of the Tesla Swedish mechanics?
I think that would be great. And I think it would have an importance. Not at least as a moral support for the workers being on strike.
Great.
Because they really need that.
Okay, well, thank you very much for joining us. We've been talking with Björn Borg. He is a longtime union activist, a longshore worker, a docker in Sweden, and has been involved in international struggle, including the Liverpool Dockers, and is talking to us today about the struggle of the Tesla mechanics in Sweden. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.